The last human alive asterisk. The sky was red. Smoke rose from every hill. The battlefield was quiet now. Ships were broken. Bodies were still. And only one human moved among the ashes. His name was Jake Moran. He was a corporal in the Earth Defense Force. He had trained for years to fight, but nothing had prepared him for this. The battle for Orion 7 was supposed to be easy. They had numbers. They had weapons. But they didn't understand the land. They didn't understand the enemy. Now Jake was the only one left. He limped across the cracked ground, holding his side. His uniform was burned. His helmet was gone. Blood dripped down his face. His left arm didn't move anymore. He didn't care. He just wanted water. He just wanted to live a little longer. As he moved through the ruins, he heard the wind. And then he heard something else. A sound. Soft, weak, not human. He stopped. Jake's first thought was danger. His second thought was curiosity. His third was silence. He crouched near a broken wall and listened. The sound came again. It was a voice. It was crying. Jake followed it carefully, step by step. His boots crunched over metal and glass. He kept his head low. No gun, no knife, just fear and pain. Then he saw it. Beneath a fallen pillar, there was something moving. A small shape, not fully grown. It had thick silver skin and glowing yellow eyes. An alien. The enemy. A child. Jake stared. The alien was trapped, its leg crushed. Under stone, it looked at him with terror. Jake looked back. For a long moment, they just stared at each other, breathing, shaking, silent. Then Jake did something strange. He stepped forward. The alien pulled away, its hands shaking, but it couldn't move. Jake knelt beside it. "You're hurt," he said quietly. The alien didn't answer. Its mouth opened, but no words came out. Just pain. Jake looked around. No soldiers, no drones, just dust and silence. He tried to lift the pillar, but it was too heavy. He found a metal rod and used it as a lever. His whole body screamed in pain, but he didn't stop. After minutes of work, the stone rolled away. The alien gasped, pulling its leg free. It was bleeding badly. Jake tore part of his own sleeve and wrapped it around the wound. The alien flinched, but let him do it. When he finished, he sat back. His breath was heavy. His hands were shaking. The alien looked at him. "Why?" it asked. Its voice was soft, like wind through glass. Jake smiled weakly. "Because you're not my enemy," he said. "Not right now." The alien's eyes blinked slowly. It didn't understand. Or maybe it did. They sat together, in silence for a long time. Above them, the sky began to turn dark. Jake looked up. A ship passed far overhead. Not human. It was searching. He grabbed the alien's arm. "We have to move," he whispered. The alien tried to stand, but fell. Its leg was too weak. So Jake did something even stranger. He lifted it. He carried the alien through the ruins, hiding behind broken walls and fallen towers. Every few steps, he stopped to breathe. Every sound made his heart pound. They reached an old bunker. It was half buried, almost invisible. Jake kicked the door until it opened. Inside, it was cold and dark, but safe. He laid the alien down on an old blanket. He sat beside it, breathing hard. The alien looked at him again. "What is your name?" it asked. "Jake." He said. "Yours?" "Tarek." "Tarek," Jake repeated. "That's a good name." Tarek's eyes closed slowly. It was tired. Jake was to dot, but he stayed awake. He listened for footsteps, for voices, for danger. His hand rested near a broken pipe, the closest thing he had to a weapon. He didn't know what would happen next. He didn't know if Tarek would live. He didn't even know if he would dot, but in that moment, Jake made a choice. He would protect this alien, not because it was right, not because it was smart, but because he could, and that was enough. Asterisk hunted by both sides. This bunker was dark and quiet, old walls covered in dust, broken screens on the floor. Jake sat in the corner, his back against cold metal. His eyes were open, but his mind felt heavy. Tarak, the young alien, was asleep. Its breathing was slow. The cloth around its leg was wet with dark blue blood. Jake looked down at his hands. They were shaking. He had seen friends die. He had watched his team burn. And now, he was hiding with the enemy. What was he doing? He didn't know. But something inside him said, "This is right." Suddenly, a sound broke the silence. A soft beep. Then another. Jake froze. He reached for the old scanner on the wall. He wiped the dust from the screen. Motion detected. 3 life forms, closing in. Not Tarek. Not him. Someone else. He cursed under his breath. He quickly moved to Tarek and shook him gently. Wake up, he whispered. We have to go. Now. Tarek opened his eyes slowly. What is it? They found us. Who? I don't know, Jake said, but they're not here to help. Jake helped Tarek stand. The alien winced in pain. But it didn't. Complained. They slipped out the back door of the bunker. Moonlight touched the ruins outside. The wind was cold. Everything looked sharp and silent. Jake guided Tarek through broken streets. Each step felt like a race against time. Behind them, shadows moved. Voices, low and strange, filled the air. They were speaking in an alien language Jake didn't know. But he understood the tone. Hunters. He looked at Tarek. Do you know them? Tarek nodded slowly. They are from the other side. They kill humans and traitors. Great, Jake muttered. So they'll kill both of us. They ducked into an old supply building. Jake scanned the area and saw something familiar. A drone charger. It still had power. He plugged in a broken human comlink he had found earlier. After a few sparks, it lit up. Signal weak, but working. Jake tried to send a message to anyone left from his team. Just one word. Alive. He didn't expect a reply, but one came. Location. Jake hesitated. Was this help or a trap? He sent the message. Anyway. Then he heard it. The sharp buzz of a scout drone. Outside. Close. He grabbed Tarek's hand. We move again. Through the tunnels. Tunnels. Jake pointed to a small hole behind the shells. Maintenance shafts. They go under the city. They climbed in. The space was tight and dark. Jake crawled first, dragging a metal pipe behind him. Tarek followed slowly, biting down on pain. After 10 minutes of crawling, they stopped. Jake pushed open a rusty vent. It led to a small chamber under an old statue. They sat down, breathing hard. They are hunting us. Tarek said softly, my people, and yours. Jake looked at him. You didn't choose this war, right? No, me neither. Tarek reached into his belt and pulled out a tiny light. He clicked it on. It showed a small charm around his neck, a symbol, a circle with 3 stars inside. This means peace, Tarek said. It was my father's. He believed we could stop fighting. One day, Jake stared at it. What happened to him? He died, trying to protect the human child. Jake's eyes widened. What? Long ago, before this war began, but no one believed him. They called him a traitor. Now they call me the same. Jake didn't speak for a while. His throat felt tight. Suddenly, the comlink in his pocket beeped again. Help is near. Stay low. Jake showed it to Tarek. Someone's coming. I don't know who. Can we trust them? Jake looked up at the cracked ceiling. Stars peeked through like tiny eyes. We'll find out soon. Just then, a loud crash echoed above them. Dust fell from the roof. A voice shouted, search the ruins. Find the human, not friendly. Definitely not. Jake stood up fast. We run again, he said. One more time. Tarek grabbed his sleeve. Why are you still helping me? Jake smiled faintly. Because you helped me too. They disappeared into the shadows once more. Asterisk in the ruins of war. They were no longer enemies, just 2 souls hunted by both sides, holding on to one fragile hope. The broken sword sky above the city was full of smoke again. Old towers stood like skeletons, silent and broken. Jake and Tarek moved slowly through the ruins, deeper into the forgotten side of the battlefield. They had not eaten for 2 days. They had not slept for more than minutes at a time, but they kept going. Jake's face was thinner now, his body weak, but his mind sharp. He knew this part of the city. He remembered seeing it from the air during the first wave. But back then, everything was still standing. Now only ruins. Tarak limped beside him, one arm pressed tightly around his ribs. His wound had stopped bleeding, but it still hurt with every breath. They reached a wall made of dark stone, half buried in rubble. Tarek stopped. His eyes were locked on something Jake couldn't see. He stepped forward slowly. His fingers brushed the broken rocks. Then he knelt down. Jake watched quietly. He didn't speak. Tarek pulled something out of the rubble. A sword. It was old, heavy, covered in dust, but the metal still shined in places. It had strange markings along the blade, letters from a language Jake couldn't read. But the sword was broken. The tip was snapped off. Part of the hilt was missing, but even in its broken form, it felt powerful. Tarak held it close. His hands shook. Jake stepped closer. What is it? he asked softly. Tarek's voice was low, barely a whisper. This belonged to my father. Jake didn't know what to say. Tarak placed the sword across his lap. He died right here, he said. He fought to protect the weak, even humans. They called him a fool, a coward, but he believed in something greater. Jake sat beside him. The air felt heavy, like the weight of history was pressing down on them both. Do you remember him well? Jake asked. Yes. He taught me how to fight, how to survive. But most of all, he taught me to listen before I hate. Jake nodded slowly. His own father had died long ago. Not in war, in a mining accident back on Mars Station 3, but the pain of loss was the same. No matter the world. Tarak looked at Jake. My father told me something once. Something I never understood until now. What was it? He said, the one who chooses peace in the middle of war is the bravest of all. Jake stared at the broken sword. He was right. Suddenly, a sound in the distance stopped metal footsteps. Jake stood quickly, motioning for Tarek to stay low. He peeked over the rubble and saw them, 3 armored soldiers, human. They were scanning the area with searchlights. Jake recognized their suits. Special forces, they're my people, he whispered. But he didn't feel safe. He remembered what happened last time, what Lieutenant Rafe tried to do, how they tried to shoot Tarek on sight. Tarak gripped the broken sword tighter. His hands were firm now, his eyes calm. If they come, I will fight, he said. Even with this, Jake looked at him. No, not yet. Let me talk to them first. He stood and waved his arms. The soldiers raised their weapons immediately. Hold fire. Jake shouted, I'm Corporal Jake Moran, F number 7740. They paused, then one stepped forward. Moran, you're alive. Barely. Are you alone? Jake hesitated. His eyes shifted toward the rubble behind him, then back at them. Yes. The soldier narrowed his eyes. We got a message, said you were hiding with something dangerous. Jake forced a smile. No danger here, just ghosts and dust. The soldier looked unsure. He walked closer. Suddenly, the wind blew hard. From behind the rubble, something rolled out, a silver charm, Tarek's peace symbol. The soldier saw it. He raised his gun. What is this? He demanded. Jake acted fast. He stepped in front of the soldier. Nothing, just trash. But it was too late. Another soldier moved around the side and saw Tarek. Alien, armed, gunfire. But not from them. Tarak jumped out, holding the broken sword like a shield. He knocked one soldier down. Jake tackled the second before he could shoot. The third ran. In seconds, it was over. 2 soldiers lay unconscious. The third escaped. Jake breathed hard. His heart was pounding. Tarak stood with the sword in both hands. His arms were trembling. Jake walked to him. He looked into his eyes. They weren't enemies anymore. They were survivors. The sword may have been broken, but the bond between Jake and Tarek was only growing stronger. Betrayal in the dark fire was small but warm. Jake and Tarek sat near it, deep inside a collapsed building. They had found dry wood, old rations, and a bit of clean water. For the first time in days, they were not running. Tarek placed the broken sword beside him and leaned back slowly. His legs still hurt, but it was healing. Jake chewed a piece of dried food, staring into the flames. You didn't have to fight those soldiers, Tarek said quietly. You risked everything. Jake nodded. They weren't here to rescue me. They were here to kill anything that moved, even you, especially me, Jake said with a tired smile. A human who defends an alien. They don't forgive that. Tarek looked at him for a moment. Then he picked up the sword and placed it between them. We should go north, he said. There are old places there, hidden temples. Some of my people might still be alive. Do you trust them? Jake asked. Not all, Tarek answered, but they will listen to the sword. It carries my father's name. Jake leaned back against the wall. The fire crackled. For a short time, they both felt something close to peace. But peace never lasted long in a war zone. Sometime after midnight, Jake heard a sound. A voice, soft but familiar. He stood quickly, grabbing a pipe from beside the wall. Who's there? He called. A shadow stepped forward, and Jake froze. It was Lieutenant Rafe, his old squad leader, the man who once tried to kill Tarek. You look like hell, Moran, Rafe said with a smirk. He stepped into the firelight, hands raised. Tarak stood, slowly, eyes filled with warning. Easy, Jake said to both of them, his heart beat fast. How did you find us? He asked Rafe. Your signal. Same comlink you tried to use earlier. We traced it. Alone. Rafe nodded. Others didn't want to come. Command thinks you're dead. I didn't. Jake didn't trust the smile on his face. So what now? He asked. Rafe's single quotes S voice was calm. I'm not here to fight. I want to talk. Talk about what? Rafe looked at Tarek. About your friend. The alien you chose over your own kind. Tarek didn't blink. His hand moved closer to the sword. Stop, Jake said sharply. He says he wants to talk. Rafe, step closer to the fire. You don't see it, do you? He said. This thing beside you. It's not your friend. It's a tool. One day it'll turn on you. Jake didn't reply. Rafe looked at him carefully. They killed your team, Jake. You lost friends, brothers. And now you sit beside the enemy like it's normal. He's not my enemy, Jake said. Not anymore. Rafe's eyes darkened. You're not thinking straight. Then, without warning, he pulled out a small pistol. Step aside, he said. I'm doing what you can't. Jake didn't move. Rafe raised the pistol higher. I'm warning you. Tarek stood taller now. His hand was on the sword, but he didn't move either. Put it down, Rafe. Jake said, you shoot him. You shoot me. Rafe's hand shook for just a second. Then he laughed coldly. You're really gone, aren't you? Jake stepped forward. Maybe I am, but at least I still know who I am. A tense silence filled the air. Then Tarek spoke, his voice steady. I will not fight you, soldier, but I will not run either. Rafe pointed the gun at him. But Jake moved first. He slammed into Rafe, knocking the pistol away. They struggled. Fists, elbows, grunts. Jake's body was weak, but his will was strong. Rafe tried to choke him, but Tarek moved behind and pulled him off. In seconds, it was over. Rafe lay on the floor, breathing hard, eyes wide with anger. Traitors, he spat. Jake looked down at him. Go back. Tell them you found nothing. They won't believe me. Then lie better, Jake said. Or next time, we won't let you walk away. Tarek picked up the pistol and threw it into the fire. It hissed and cracked. Rafe stood slowly and limped out of the ruins, vanishing into the dark. Silence returned. Jake dropped to the ground, exhausted. Tarek sat beside him. He will bring more next time. I know. So what do we do? Jake looked at the sword, then at the stars. We go north, he said. We find your people. We find peace, or die trying. They had made their choice, not as human and alien, but as brothers in a world that no longer made sense. A journey through Fureth. Morning sky was dark with smoke. Fires burned across the horizon. The city behind them was no longer a place to hide. It was a trap waiting to close. Jake and Tarek stood on a cracked hill, looking north. Ahead of them stretched a wasteland of scorched trees, collapsed roads, and deep canyons. It looked dead, but beyond it, hope. Tarek's people had once built temples there, hidden from war. If any of them still survived, that's where they would be. How far? Jake asked, adjusting the old pack on his back. 3 days, Tarek replied, his voice rough. If we stay off the main paths, we'll make it. They began to walk. Each step was harder than the last. The sun rose hot and unforgiving. Jake's boots were worn down to the sole. Tarek limped badly, his leg wrapped in a cloth they had taken from the ruins. They drank only when they found rain puddles or dew on the leaves. They ate dry roots and whatever strange fruit Jake dared to try. Some made him sick. Some gave energy. They kept moving. On the second day, a new challenge came. The fires. They reached the edge of a black forest. Trees burned slow and steady, smoke rising into the sky like warning signs. Jake stopped and wiped sweat from his brow. We can't go through that. Tarek looked up at the trees. There's no way around. The flames will block all paths by nightfall. They stood in silence. Then Jake smiled faintly. So we go now. They wrapped wet cloths around their mouths and pushed forward. Heat pressed against their skin. Ashes fell like snow. Branches cracked and popped underfoot. Every sound felt like danger. Jake kept one hand on Tarek's shoulder, guiding him through the smoke. Behind them, a tree fell. Ahead, the fire jumped to another branch. Don't stop, Jake said, coughing. I won't, Tarek replied, holding his sword close. Even broken, it gave him strength. They reached a clearing just as Jake collapsed. His knees hit the dirt. His hands trembled. His breathing was rough and fast. Tarek pulled him up. No, Jake said. You need to rest. They sat under a half-burned stone arch, surrounded by smoke. Tarek pulled out the last fruit and gave half to Jake. Eat, he said. Jake chewed slowly. You should have left me. Never, Tarek answered without thinking. Silence grew between them, not heavy, just honest. You're not what I expected, Jake said after a while. You either. They shared a weak smile. When the fire passed, they moved again. On the third day, the land began to rise. Green returned, not much, but enough. The air felt cooler. A stream ran beside a rock path, and they filled their bottles. Hope returned, but so did danger. Just before sunset, they heard something above them. A drone had hovered, silent, almost invisible in the sky. Stay low, Jake whispered, pulling Tarek under a rocky ledge. They waited. The drone passed, but minutes later, the sound of ships. They were being tracked. We can't stop, Tarek said. We won't, Jake replied. That night, they climbed the cliffside. Tarek's leg gave out halfway. Jake carried him the rest of the way. At the top, they saw it. A wide valley of glowing blue stones. Quiet, untouched. We're close, Tarek said, voice full of emotion. They made camp under the stars. Jake lay on his back, staring at the sky. Back home, he said softly, people think this war is simple. Good versus evil, humans versus aliens. Tarek looked at him. What do you think? Jake turned his head. I think it's people versus hate. Tarek nodded slowly. My father would have liked you. Mine too, Jake said with a tired smile. If he believed in aliens, Tarek chuckled. A small, real sound in a world full of pain. That night, they slept under the open sky. No walls, no fire, no fear. Just stars. And hope. Asterisk after fire and ash. They had found a piece of peace, but the journey was not over yet. Asterisk the sacred. Placid sun rose slowly over the valley. Soft light touched the blue stones, making them shine like glass. Jake and Tarek stood at the edge. Quiet and still. Below them, built into the side of the mountain, was a large structure. It looked old, very old. Stone steps, tall doors, and carved symbols along the walls. This is it, Tarek whispered. The sacred place. My people built it before the war. Jake looked at the carvings. They showed scenes of warriors and stars, but one image caught his eye, a human standing beside an alien, holding a sword together. What's that? He asked. Tarek touched the stone. A legend. The prophecy of the twin flame. The enemies who would walk together, not to destroy, but to heal. Jake raised an eyebrow. And people believed that. My father did. They walked down the path together. When they reached the door, Tarek placed his hand on a round stone in the center. A light blinked. The door opened with a slow, deep sound. Inside, the air was cold and quiet. Torches lit the walls with blue fire. Shadows danced. They walked through long halls until voices called out from the darkness. Who comes? The voice was deep, wise, not angry, but not warm either. Tarek stepped forward. I am Tarek, son of Saren. I come with a guest. Not an enemy, a friend. Figures stepped into the light. Tall aliens with silver skin, older than Tarek. Their eyes were sharp. A human. Here. Yes, Tarek said calmly. He saved my life. More than once. He carries my father's truth. An elder looked at Jake. And you, do you know where you stand? Jake nodded. I was trained to kill. But this war is wrong. Your people saw something before we did. Another elder stepped forward. A woman with golden markings on her head. She looked at Jake closely, then at the sword in Tarek's hands. That sword, she said softly, it was forged by Saren. Your father. Yes, Tarek replied. But it was broken, and yet, it is still whole in meaning. The elders turned and led them deeper into the temple. They entered a round chamber with a high ceiling. Stars were painted above, glowing faintly. In the center, a small forge burned. Give us the sword, one elder said. Tarek hesitated, then handed it over. We will restore it, the woman said, but only if the bond is true. What bond? Jake asked. Between you and Tarek, she replied. The sword cannot be carried by a stranger, only by one who walks with honor. Jake looked at Tarek. The alien's eyes were calm, trusting. Then we trust each other, Jake said, not because of war, but because we've seen the worst, and chose to protect each other. The elders looked at one another. Then the woman placed the sword in the forge. Blue flames danced. Time passed. Jake and Tarek sat outside the chamber, waiting. Do you think they'll accept me? Jake asked. I already have, Tarek said. But your people, Tarek looked toward the sky. They fear, like all do. But maybe, you are the one who proves fear wrong. Suddenly, a bell rang. The door opened. The elder walked out, holding the sword. It was whole again. The metal shined. The marks were clear. She placed it in Jake's hands. This sword once belonged to Saren, she said. Now it belongs to you. Jake didn't speak. His hands shook slightly. He felt the weight. Not just metal, but trust, hope. Carry it with honor, the elder said. Because soon, the final choice will come. Jake looked at her. What do you mean? Others are coming. Not just soldiers, but those who wish to erase all peace. They will not let this bond survive. Tarek stood. Then we will stand against them. Together, Jake said, holding the sword tight. Asterisk, the sacred sword was whole again, and so was the bond between two souls who refused to be enemies. This sword is yours. The wind howled across the valley. Clouds gathered above the mountains. Dark and heavy, rain was coming, but something worse was coming too. Jake stood at the top of the temple steps, the restored sword in his hands. Its surface glowed faintly under the gray sky. Behind him, Tarek stood with his people, warriors, elders, and children. Some still looked at Jake with doubt, others with curiosity, but no one pushed him away. They all knew what was coming. Ships had been seen in the sky, fast, black, and deadly. Not from Jake's army, not from Tarek's. Something new. A third force. One that hated peace more than war. One that saw the friendship between Jake and Tarek as weakness. They wanted to end it. How many? Jake asked as he scanned the horizon. 3. Drop ships, Tarek said. Maybe 40 soldiers. Too many. Then we fight smart. Jake nodded. His hand gripped the sword tighter. They prepared quickly. Elders helped move the children into the caves behind the temple. Tarek's people took old weapons from the wall. Jake helped lay traps, smoke bombs, hidden spikes, false paths. They didn't plan to win. They planned to survive. And protect the bond that had brought them together. As the first ship appeared in the sky, Jake stood beside Tarek. You ready? He asked. Double quotes. Yes. I still don't understand everything, Jake said with a weak smile. But I know this. We're not just fighting for each other anymore. No, Tarek said. We're fighting for something bigger. The enemy landed fast. Figures in dark armor spread out across the valley. They carried shock rifles and silent blades. They moved like shadows, with no mercy. Jake stepped forward and shouted, You don't have to do this. The leader raised a hand. Stand down, human. Leave the alien and walk away. Jake didn't move. This sword belonged to his father, he said, and now, it's mine. Then you die with him. The battle began. Blasters lit the air. Smoke filled the field. Jake fought side by side with Tarek, swinging the sword like lightning. Every move felt guided. Like the sword remembered. Tarek moved like a flame, fast, sharp, burning with purpose. The attackers were trained, but not ready for unity. Jake and Tarek fought as one. Behind them, others joined in. Tarek's people, even the oldest elders, took arms. The fight lasted long into the storm. Rain fell hard. Mud covered the stones. The mountain echoed with cries and strikes, and then, silence. The last attacker fell. Jake stood in the rain, sword dripping with water and ash. His body ached. His hands were cut, but his heart was full. Tarek walked to him, slow but steady. He looked at Jake for a long moment. Then, he knelt. He placed his hand on the sword and said softly, This sword belonged to my father, human. Now it's yours. Jake looked at him, eyes wide. You don't have to. I do, Tarek said. You carry not just the blade, but the dream. Jake slowly nodded. He held the sword with both hands, not as a weapon. As a promise. Behind them, the valley was still, but something had changed. The war wasn't over, but something more important had begun. A new story, a new path. One where enemies could become brothers. Asterisk. And so, on a mountain of ash and rain, a human held an alien sacred sword. Not to conquer, but to protect what they had built together. Peace.